Jensen here. Today we are going to make a chicken meatball gnocchi soup with a kind of a nice, lovely kind of herby broth to it. And we're going to prep up some more Aunt Aggie's cookie dough. I have one last log left over from my big batch that I made in the holidays. So we're going to prep up some ones for Evie's birthday party this weekend and Valentine's. And luckily their color themes are about the same. Let's start by getting our soup going, and we'll work on our dough. We'll get our cookies baking for there because these cookies are so good and they last they go so fast. And I always like to have some in my freezer, so whenever my kids are like, "Oh, can we have cookies?" and I'm like, I can have cookies in like 8 minutes. So we'll have those. We'll bake these up, and they'll be excited when they come home from school to some warm cookies. Okay, so let's start. We're going to dice up our onion here. We'll start sauteing, and we're going to prep up our chicken meatballs. That way we can bake them in the oven, and we'll kind of work on our soup, let it simmer, kind of go through that way, and then our dough. And it's a really, really simple kind of cookie recipe. I think it has like 5 ingredients in it, but it is a family favorite. Okay, get a little bit of olive oil in here, about a tablespoon or so, not even. And get it heating up. I'll start it a little higher and then we'll turn it down to about a 4 or 5 once we get our Dutch oven nice and warm. So we'll get our onions in here. And I'm going to just grab a little spoon and so we can give them a nice little stir. Yep.
You have a question? Where'd you go for your birthday dinner?
So we went to this place called Shogun's, which is a hibachi place. So I love hibachi and sushi, and we had lots of sushi and delicious. And I will say it's really the best part about it is it's very entertaining for the little ones. So they are a little bit better behaved. Now, it's nice when I go when it's my birthday because then I don't sit by any of the little ones and I get to watch my husband manage Jack, which is sometimes a 2-person job on there, but it was delicious and so yummy. We're going to start by making our chicken meatballs. We're going to take a slice of bread and we're going to soak it in about 1 to 2 tablespoons of cream, enough to make it soggy to where it can turn into a paste, but we don't want it dripping or oozing in it because then we'll add too much liquid. So enough, as you can see, if I hold it, it will start to fall apart, but it's not in a puddle. We're going to add in 1 egg, and then we're going to get our spices in, and this is going to make our panade, which is going to be the binder for our meatballs. So 1 egg, and let me get my hands, got egg on it. And let's get our spices. So these are going to be chicken meatballs. We'll bake them up and put them in the soup, which is actually really great for chicken meatballs because chicken is typically a drier meat when you use it ground, and so because it has less fat. But in the soup, they keep them really moist and delicious. So we're going to start with our onion powder. We're going to season it up well so that it has all those great flavors. We're going to start with about a tablespoon of onion powder. And then we are going to add in some Italian seasoning on here because it's going to have those flavors are going to play well in our thing. So we're going to do about 1.5 teaspoons. And then some garlic salt, about 1 teaspoon since we have a whole pound of meat that we need to season up. So a couple good shakes here. And then we're going to add in some fresh thyme just to give it a nice little fragrant flavors to it. I'm going to keep the leaves kind of whole on it, so I'm not going to chop it off, but I'm going to take them off the little stems here. And that way you'll get just a nice, really lovely pop in each one. Almost. So this will be about a teaspoon of fresh thyme, which will play really well with the chicken. And get these last little guys. And before we go in, I'm gonna go in with our things. We'll smush it together. Then we'll add in our chicken. I'm just gonna open up my chicken here, so it's a little bit easier when we get to that next stage. So give this a quick stir. I'm gonna turn it down to about a 4 or so. And then we're gonna go in and we're gonna just smush our hands through the bread and the egg and those herbs to make just a lovely little paste. This is called a panade, and this is going to be the binder that holds our meatballs together. I'm only using a pound of meat, so I like to use just 1 egg and 1 slice of bread per pound of meat. There we go. Now chicken, because it's a little bit more of a softer kind of runny meat, in there, so it's not like a ground beef has a little bit of firm. Sometimes what I'll do is I might use some olive oil to help shape them up if it's a bit more runny. So here's our lovely panade. We're going to put in our pound of ground chicken. And we're going to just take that and just smush our hands through it until we have all of that great flavor mixed all the way through our chicken. So chicken, as you can see, has a slightly different texture than ground beef or ground pork or ground lamb. It's a lot easier to squeeze and manipulate. Now, to get those really pretty meatballs of ground chicken, this is where I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil on my hands to shape them. So I'm going to wash my hands real quick, and then we'll show you. And it just helps with it because chicken is a little bit more sticky. Okay. Grab this. Grab my little pan here for our meatballs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil on the pan, so if I need to dip my hands a second time, and then I'm going to put some on my hands. So just enough for if you need to do another future little dipping. That way you're not kind of having to touch the bottle while working with the chicken.
You have a question. Did you get your birthday oven mitts?
I did. They haven't come yet. They're supposed to come either today or tomorrow. With the ice storm, everything was lots of delays and everything. So I have lots of birthday presents coming. They're just taking a lot longer to arrive, but that's okay. You know what? When they get here, we got lots of special things. So I'm very excited about it on there. And, excited. Getting my laundry room done. New washer dryer on there. Got a new vacuum too. Fun. I know when you get older, I feel like you get such lame presents sometimes, but they're really exciting for me on there. And then I got a bunch of new aprons. I think the kids got me some aprons from Headley and Bennett. My parents got me some aprons from Headley and Bennett. So I have a bunch of aprons coming because they got me each picked out one that I really have been liking. And then they also got me each a mystery box. One's like a chef mystery box and one's the classic mystery box. So I have those coming, which I'm excited. I'm going to dip my hands just a little bit. Gets a nice little smooth surface on these. And then we'll roll them. I made some of these a bit big, so I'm going to steal a little bit from them because chicken does not shrink down quite as much as beef or pork or lamb because it is much lower in a fat content, and I want these to be a little bit smaller in our soup. There we go. Just a teensy bit. And then, of course, my alligator oven mitts, which I'm very, very excited for because you guys know me. I love my fun little oven mitts.
And I like you when Scrabble yesterday.
Oh, yes. So I love Scrabble. It's my favorite game. And mainly because growing up, it was my my muffa, which is Swedish for mother's father. But he used to play it, and he was like a genius. I mean, he was a nuclear physicist, and he knew like every word imaginable. He also spoke like 5 different languages. But we would play with him, and I only beat him one time in all the years that we played, and it was because Scrabble came out with a new dictionary which added some new 2-letter words and a few other ones, and I happened to study up on those because I know all the 2-letter words, like the ridiculous ones, like AA, which is a form of lava, AE, which is the Greek letter, JO, ZAQI. I've got them all. So that's what helps you win. It's a strategy. So my husband doesn't like to play with me because he has only beat me once in our almost 20 years of being together. And it was I guess our second date together, but we played Scrabble. So, I was a little bit nervous there and everything like that. It was the only time he's beat me. And allegedly. Even while in labor at the hospital, I still beat him. I'm just saying, So he played 5 games with me because I love it. Well, I will say 4.5 because my older children played a game with me, and I let them use their phones and everything to try to get it. Didn't even come close. So I loved it. That's why I sit there. My husband's now promised that he will play a game with me every week since it brings me so much joy. Maybe he'll win. I always say, I keep telling him it's not about the big words, although I did get a 7-letter word out there yesterday, so I got the bonus 50 points. But it's about these little words and maximizing the points and not leaving the board open. And my husband likes a challenge. He's like, that's not a word. And I'm like, it is. I can even tell you what it means, but challenge, because that means you lose your turn.
AG should not be in there.
It is in there.
Shouldn't be.
It is. Okay, we're going to pop our chicken meatballs in the oven here, and we'll let those kind of cook up and get those going. They're smaller, so they need about 10 minutes to cook up. They will be going into our lovely hot soup. Let's get some more of our vegetable sauteing in here, and then we'll work on our cookies. For our cookies, I'm making, again, a big batch of my cookies because I like to have them stored up in the freezer, and we're going to be using some for Evie's birthday party and for Valentine's Day, and I always like to do fun holiday colors.
Did you get everything on your wish list?
Yep, I got everything on my wish list, even my big ticket items. So I was very happy on there. I'm very excited. Now, they'll be here, so it's like my birthday every day for a while, because they haven't all arrived. Well, it'll be great because it's more fun, more exciting that way. I've been like looking, I'm like, ooh, is that my package yet? Ooh, because I can always see we have a lot of delivery trucks driving down our neighborhood. I think a lot of us like to do a little online shopping, maybe a bit too much. And so they're always out there. They seem to know our address very well. But I'm very excited. And I was, the other day I was thinking about it because, growing up, you got to be like either king or queen for the day on your birthday. I was, queen for the day. But then my husband came up with this concept of a birthday month, and I was like, birthday months are silly. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? People in February, they don't get a full birthday month because it is the shortest month of the year. So I feel like, we should get extra presents because our birthday month is only so long. And there's a couple holidays in there. You got Valentine's Day. My other daughter, one of my daughter's birthdays in this month too. So I have to share with her. All the things we have to give up. Okay, we got our onions here. I've got some rainbow carrots. So white, orange, and yellow. Carrots, rainbow carrots, really, the different colors don't have much of a different flavor. I will say orange is the sweetest, which is why it's the most popular. But the flavor between them is very, very small. White being the least sweetish, but again, it all just tastes like a carrot. We're gonna quarter these, and then I will dice them up and we'll throw them in there, and we'll get our celery cooking for this. Here, that one's a little bit bigger. And then we can get our broth going for our soup, some fresh herbs in there. We'll get our cookies going and all that jazz. Okay. Let's pop our carrots in. And give this a little stir. And then I've got 4 stalks of celery. This is all going to give it a great, great flavor to our broth. And we'll also add some kale in, and then I have some gnocchi, and it'll be just delicious. So the meatballs and the gnocchi, both little kind of like little balls in the soup, so they work well. I'm going to take off my tops and bottom here because they always dry out a little bit on here. And then because my celery is pretty big, I'm going to just cut it down in the middle. That way I have smaller bits of celery instead of really big ones. Here. That one's a pretty big. Do a couple more because I like to have lots of little bites in every spoonful.
Are the kids back in school yet?
They are back in school. They went back on Tuesday. So yeah, yesterday on my birthday, it was like, you know, it was like the school system knew. I wanted to have my day off, and it was wonderful. So they were back. They were excited because they came home, and then we, you know, going out to eat, and it's just a chill day, very much. You know, my 10-year-old daughter, I was like, oh, looks like you're going to skip soccer practice today, which was perfect because it was raining. And I was just like, you know, who wants to be practicing soccer outside in the rain in 45-degree weather? Not me.
You got lots more birthday with
you. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that a lot. Give those a nice little stir on here. And then I'm going to just give my hands a quick rinse, and we can start working on our batter or our dough for this because we'll have to mix in our colors. So it's kind of a step here. I'm making a big batch of these in here. So we're going to use 4 sticks of butter, room temperature butter. This is the best. So we're going to add these in here. So it's 2 cups of butter. This is for a double batch. And I do believe the Aunt Aggie's recipe card is a freebie I made out to everybody. So you'll have to just look for that recipe card on there. But these are our absolute favorite. This is like a recipe from my husband's family that's from the 1800s. And it's a very simple, basic recipe. And the best way that I can describe it is it's a mix between a butter and a sugar cookie. So not as rich as a butter cookie and not as sweet as a sugar cookie, but somewhere in between, a very happy medium. And it will take food coloring really well so that you can change up it for all the holidays and make it nice. Okay, we're gonna let this cream for just a second and get that butter nice and mixed around. Now, this is not a dough that you can bake right away. It's a freezer cookie, so like you freeze and then you cut them. But I had one more batch left from when I made them last time. And so what I do is I wrap them up and press and seal. And then when I'm ready to do it, we can unwrap them and they'll be a nice firm log. And then we'll slice them up and bake them at 350 for 8 minutes. And they are just amazing. Just give it a quick whip. Perfect. Let's get these cut up and baking, and then we can finish up our cooking.
the ingredients for the cookies?
Yes. So right now we just have 2 cups of butter in there, but we're going to add sugar, flour, egg yolks, baking soda, and cream of tartar. And that is it. And we'll get there. I'm just letting that sit, but I want to get these going on here in just a second because I have them out. And you don't want them to sit out from the freezer for too long. I always let them sit for like 5 to 10 minutes before I start cutting into it, because when they're directly out of the freezer, it's like a really, really firm log on here. So this is our last of my Christmas ones, which happens to be red and white, which works well. We're actually doing very similar colors because my daughter's having like a pretty in pink spa day birthday party. And she wants, you know, pinks and purples and reds. And I was like, oh, that also works for Valentine's Day.
You got a question? What does the cream of tartar do?
It is a binder that holds everything together so that when they bake up, they don't spread out too much. And, you know, and it just keeps the form since they are a slice and bake cookie. And there's just, it's a very rich one, but it just helps its binding for it and preventing, again, the spread. And this recipe has been around for, you know, the 1800s. It has survived many centuries, and it is, I will say, probably our family's collective favorite cookie.
And do you use food coloring for them?
I do use food coloring, although my husband's family, like theirs was originally just plain. I decided to do the food coloring to add a little pizzazz, you know, for the holidays and make it a little bit more fun. That's the teacher in me coming out on there. But you can also keep them plain, and you don't have to. So you're going to just cut them. You're going to place them on a parchment-lined baking sheet. You don't need to put them too far apart from each other because they don't spread out too much. So you can bake a lot of them at one time. And they'll just bake up into nice little, you know, circles, squaries, depending on what shape you have that mound. Now, I will say I did try to, you know, experiment them one time and see if I could make them into a shape. And so it was pumpkins, and I did a little green stem on it. They did not turn out as pumpkins. So they spread out into little circles, but they're not ones where you're like, oh, if I put them in this mold and I can cut it, not going to work. Okay. And these bake really, really quickly. You don't want to over bake them because then they're more crispy versus soft when you first take them out. They need to sit on your baking sheet for about 10 minutes when you're done baking, 5 to 10 minutes, so that they firm up, because you just need time for that butter and everything to firm. Or just take them whole middle row out here, spread it around. You can also make the cookies much bigger than I make them. I like to make them small so that, you know, everybody gets a little cookie here and there. And you can have lots of them without feeling guilty because they're so good. They don't last longer being smaller. In fact, I think they go faster. Okay, so we have them out. And then I'm going to pop them in my oven here, and we're going to have to bake them for 8 minutes. So I'm not a big fan of this timer on there, but my wall oven hopefully will be back too soon, fixed hopefully soon. Otherwise, happy birthday. Let's check on our things. These are our meatballs. I'm going to let them cook for another minute or two. You know, I'm going to put them underneath, and we're going to put these cookies right on top at 350 degrees, and we're going to cook these for 8 minutes. So we'll set my timer, and because these are ones I don't want to be off on. There we go. Let's give this a little stir here. We've got our onions, our carrots, and our celery cooking up for our soup. We made our meatballs. Before we add in some flour or finish up our cookies, let's get this broth. Let's get the rest of our little vegetables in here, and then we'll get our broth base going for it.
Have you decided what's for dinner yet?
I have not decided what's for dinner yet. I was originally going to have to do a quicker meal because soccer practice was going to be a little bit, and I had to cook between, you know, pick up and drop off. But then, because soccer practice changes a lot in the winter, it got moved up earlier. So then I can do our regular, you know, kind of dinner time stream at 8 o'clock-ish. So I haven't decided, but I have less time constraints, which means I always can do something a little more involved, which I love. That's the cooking I love, is the more involved, fun, fancy, lots of little sauces and sides on there. So I haven't decided yet, but we have options, lots of produce and meat since our stock up. So, you know, too many choices right now. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not sure yet. Well, let's get this. We've got our mushrooms in. We'll let those saute for a second. And then I'm going to get some spices in here while we wait. I'll use up the last of my garlic here on this bag. Don't worry, guys. I've got a whole nother bag of fresh garlic. But just a few cloves, adding some nice flavors to the broth since we have our good aromatic vegetables, you know, our celery, carrots, and onions. And
Yeah, question, is your oven going to be fixed for the Super Bowl?
you know what? I don't know. I don't know when our part's going to come. And if that, we're hoping right now that it's just the circuit board that needs to be replaced, but the circuit board, you know, needs to come. And we're not 100% sure when, you know, it will get here. So fingers crossed. Now, luckily, most of what I do for the Super Bowl is on the stove. And I do have my oven right here. It's not my nice, fancy, bougie oven, but you know, before 2 years ago, I did not have a wall oven. So, and I cooked on a stove pretty much just like this. So we'll go back there and always work, just not quite as much room. But I'm not going to change my menu. I will pivot and make it all work. Plus, the star is the chili. I love my chili. I only make it like once a year because it's a pretty epic chili. And it's so good. And you make so much of it. By the time you're done eating the chili, this is one that there are leftovers and I give it out. I give it to like my brother and to my friends because it's like, I don't know how to make a small pot of it because there's so many different ingredients to it. So we've got our garlic in there. We're going to add in some Italian seasoning for this. We're going to let it saute. I'm going to do about a teaspoon. And these are all the same flavors that are in our meatballs as well. We're going to add in some bay leaves. So just about 1.5. I had a small one next to it. And then some fresh thyme. And then we'll let those saute up. And then we'll get, I'm going to put just a little bit of flour in here so that our soup, instead of being a really light broth, it'll be a slightly richer one. So more like a stewy on there. So, and I think that will play well with the gnocchi because then it almost makes like a nice sauce on the gnocchi.
Are you going to share your chili recipe this weekend?
I will. I do not keep it a secret. I have it there. It's simple but delicious and on there. I made it last year for the Super Bowl, so you can always go and check out the video from last year too. We have that up there. But I make it every year. It has won several chili contests. It even won a $600 Gibson guitar. So I'm always very proud of my win there. It always won back when I was teaching. It always won the work, you know, chili cook-off there. And then it's won in 2 other states as well. So just saying, it's a very, very good one. It's not a cheap chili because there's lots of different cuts of meats in it and whatnot. So it's one of my friends always jokes, oh, the $1 million chili, because there is so many different cuts of meat. But it makes it so good because it's not just ground beef, but there's like chuck roast in it and pork roast in it, and so delicious. Okay, let's sprinkle this with a little bit of flour. Just enough that when we add our little base over it, it will have just a slightly thicker, you know, broth base to it. So I'm going to start with about, 2 or so tablespoons. We're going to mix just a nice sprinkle over the top, and then I'm going to just coat the vegetables up just like this. And then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more. I just don't like to dump it all on at one time because I want it to form a nice paste, almost kind of like the concept of a roux. But we already have our vegetables in there. go. That should be good. So about, three, I think I use around 3 tablespoons. Give that a nice little stir and let that heat up. We'll use this in just a second. And then we're going to add in our liquid. So I'm going to use 4 cups of water with a nice spoonful of chicken bouillon. We're going to start by adding in 1 cup right now. And then we're going to mix it around, and it should coat up, and it should leave you essentially with a thick gravy at the bottom of your pan, because it's rehydrating that flour and whatnot. So just do little by little. Make sure you scrape those nice herbs off the bottom of your pan as well. Add in another cup, and then we'll mix it. Don't just dump all of your water in, because you want it to really come together well. That way you have a thick stew-like base. And this is going to be really work out really well with the gnocchi, because it will just be like almost like, that a thicker soup base, like a Tuscan thick, like, is it Olive Garden or something like that, has that gnocchi soup that has a nice thickness to it. I'm not going to add cream in it, so mine will be a slightly lighter flair, but it will have a lot of great flavor. And you'll get that thickness, though, from that little flour base to it. Here.
Cookies should be done in a second.
Yes, I got 30 seconds left on there, so I'll take a quick peek, and then we'll grab our meatballs out. But yes, these are the cookies that I always say, I'm like, you don't want to overbake them, because they're very, like, they're ones where a minute really does make a difference if you put too much on there.
And what's the name of the cookies again?
They're Aunt Aggie's cookies. And so I'm guessing they're my husband's Aunt Aggie from the 1800s, her recipe of cookies, and they are amazing. They're a mix between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie. So let's get these guys out. They've got a nice little puff up on them. Beautiful. I'm going to grab my meatballs, my chicken meatballs out as well, since they're here. But don't grab them out, because if you try to pick them off the tray, they will completely fall apart. You have to let them sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. They'll firm up just like most cookies do. That butter and the egg need to set, and then they will be so, so amazing. We've got our chicken meatballs that we spiced up with our Italian seasoning, fresh thyme, onion powder, and garlic salt. And we'll be popping them in our soup in a little bit, but I'll let them cool. I've got our soup going here. We have onions, carrots, celery, and mushrooms in here with our spices, thyme, Italian seasoning, some bay leaves. We're going to add in a nice scoop of our chicken bouillon, which will flavor up the base of our soup.
Marianne, take it.
Well, thank you, Marianne. We appreciate that. So I used 4 cups of water, so we want about 4 teaspoons of chicken bouillon. So give this a nice stir around until it's kind of coated. Then we're going to let that simmer. And then in a little bit, we'll add in our gnocchi and our kale, but those don't need very long to cook. And we're going to finish up our cookies while we wait. Okay. So we'll have that go there. So right now, all we have in our base thing was 4 sticks of butter. So 2 cups of butter, because again, I always make big batches. That way they can stay in my freezer, because these last for I will say, the longest they've ever made it in my freezer is about 3 months, but they could probably last longer. But we typically cook these up, at least once or twice a month, a stick or so. We're going to add in 3 cups of sugar, and we're going to cream that with our butter. So 2, and you want room temperature butter, because that will cream together better. 3. And get those going. And I'll grab a little spatula down so that we can press our dough down. And just make sure that sugar gets creamed in well. But again, this is a very, very simple recipe. And we'll get that. And then we're going to separate our eggs, which is always fun. Okay, looks like our butter and our sugar is creamed fairly well. Now, this one is one that it uses just yolks in the recipe, which gives these cookies a really, really rich flavor to them on there. So it's not, you don't really want to, can't, if you use a whole egg, you're going to have cookies that will run and they won't turn out as well. So you do need to separate them and then just hope you can use your whites for another recipe. I know I'm like sitting here and I'm like, what should I make with the whites? A lot of times I'll just end up throwing them away because I'm always like, oh, I'll do something and then I don't. So one yolk, but I might actually do something with them today. We'll see. Maybe I'll make some macaroons. 2. You know, it's been a long time since I've made one, but my oldest daughter keeps asking me for some. But they're one of those things that, you know, they're a challenge. They're a challenge for me because the first time I was like, I'm gonna make macaroons. I got like the kit and everything, you know, because you need a mat and stuff to do it. And I was like, I got it. I'm gonna make it. And that was when I was in grad school, and I was in class, and my husband, who is not a chef at all, decided he was gonna do it. And he made them so perfect that I was certain that he had bought them from the store, and that I was just getting, you know, ones that were placed in my little cake stand, not true ones. But he had the kids all buy. They said they were his, and I was like, not true. Then he made them again, and they were perfect. So then I was like, oh, macaroons must not be so hard to make. Oops, let me grab that little yolk right there, put it back in there. They are very difficult to make. I have yet to make the perfect macaroon, while my husband has made 2 batches of perfect ones. And I kind of just was like, I'm done, not doing it anymore on there. But his were delicious and amazing. And I'm going to do it one time, and I'm going to figure out why mine just, you know, they're tricky because I can never get the perfect feet on them. And that's what it comes down to. They're good. They taste good, but they don't look like those perfect with those, you know. And maybe I'm just not tapping the pan well enough or putting them under a fan like you're supposed to, you know. But maybe I'll make them today. We've got our egg yolk creaming in here. There we go. And then before we add in our flour, we're going to add in our cream of tartar and our baking soda.
How many egg yolks?
So 6 egg yolks. So this is, again, I'm making a double batch of these because I always like to make up, which makes about 4 to 5 logs of this. And that's like hundreds of cookies because this was 1 log and that makes a lot of cookies. So there. I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of baking soda. So 1 and 2. And then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar. And then we'll let those cream together, and then we'll add in our flour. So 1, 2. We'll cream that in. Let that mix together. I'm going to give my soup a little stir here. We're going to add in our kale and our meatballs and our gnocchi here in just a second and let it simmer together. But we'll take a little break on that and get these guys going in here. So I've got my kale that we're going to use for this. I'm just going to use and have the nice green leafy part in there. So we're just going to pull these little stems off. Now you can keep them if you want to. I just find that they have more of that bitter flavor in them than the leaves. You could also use pre-chopped up kale if you want to, or baby kale. It's also lovely. Just a few more left. And then we'll chop these guys up. Yep. And then we can get it in here. Kale is a great alternative in soup over spinach because it holds its shape really well. And it doesn't like wilt away to nothing. Now, I do love good spinach. If you do want to sub in spinach instead, just put it in right before you're about to serve because spinach only needs about 1 to 2 minutes in your soup to cook. And if you go much longer, it's just going to disappear essentially. Okay. We've got our kale going in. Give this a nice mix up. And then we'll add in our gnocchi, which does not take very long to cook up, which is nice for it. But before I do that, I do want to taste my base of my broth, see if it's where I want it to be. Delicious. So we'll get these in there. I just have a box of potato gnocchi on there, which is just like a mix between like it's like a little potato dumpling, a little potato pasta ball, which I find they actually hold up really well in soups on here. So we'll put a whole little box in here. It's going to make it nice and hearty, and then we'll have our meatballs in there. So you'll have these nice little kind of chunks in there. We're going to let them simmer up on their own, and then we'll finally add in our meatballs at the end. I just don't like to add my meatballs in too soon because a lot of times if you stir too one, you could make them fall apart. So keeps them nice and simple. But going in there, a nice thick stew base for this. It'll take about 3 or so minutes to kind of cook up. Okay, let's get our flour in, and then my flour's right over here, is the base dough for our Aunt Aggie's.
Can you go over it one more time?
Yes. So the base dough for the Aunt Aggie's really, really simple. We started out with 2 cups of butter. We added in 3 cups of sugar, creamed those together. Then we added in 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar, and 6 egg yolks. And now we're adding in 4 cups of flour. And they are like a mix between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie. This is 3, and then we've got 1 more. We'll mix this in. The natural color of the cookies are like on here, I have red and white. It's kind of that yellowish, creamy white that's from the egg yolks, gives it a richer kind of color to it.
You have a question. Someone made your split pea soup, and they had leftovers. The next day was a little thick. Do you add more water to it or what?
So split pea, the peas, the longer you cook them, the thicker they'll get. You can totally just eat it that way. If you want it more brothy, add in some more like chicken broth, not just water. You're going to want to add in broth of a flavor for it. But yes, typically split pea soup, I always love it the very first day because it's more of a brothy, which is not as common with split pea soup. It's typically that really thick one. You could also take out and use a little bit less peas if you want to have it a little bit more broth next time. My parents love it the really thick old school way, which is more of that like where the split peas kind of turn into like a mushy base, almost like a creamy potato soup. Okay, we're going to cream in our flour here. 4 cups of flour, and I'm using all-purpose flour, and I like to use unbleached because that's kind of what I use for everything. And it's going to form together and form a nice kind of thick dough, which is why it's good to use a stand mixer over like a handheld mixer. It's very difficult to mix this. Perfect.
You got a comment they like your leggings.
Oh, thank you. I have a ridiculous number of leggings. I told you my uniform that I practically wear every single day of my life are leggings and sweatshirts. Absolutely love them. I was going through my drawers and they had like kind of tucked back, and I was like, oh, I remember when I got these. I haven't worn them. And I put them out, and I was like, ooh, happy birthday present to me. Found something I bought a while ago because I have probably 60 or 70 pairs of leggings because I am I crazy like that. I have a lot of fun colored ones, which Now that I've lost a lot of weight, I feel like a little bit more comfortable wearing all the fun colored ones, you know, versus going out in like crazy neon colors.
By the way, how many steps are you at?
Oh yeah, today I made my husband do a really long workout with me. I'm at let's see exactly what I'm at. 22,307 steps. Um, I did like a 2.5 hour workout because I had to kind of make up for my very indulgent birthday where I was like, no working out, no, no anything. We're gonna just be delicious. I got my frappuccino from Starbucks and everything, so I had to make up for it today. And my husband was not happy with it, but he did it willingly. I did lots of workout. I did, I think, was it 3 Taibo workouts we did together? I did a 90-minute one and then 2 40-minute, 45-minute ones. So we got it going. Felt good. Okay, here is our lovely dough. I'm just kind of clearing out here. You can definitely keep it just this color. I like to dye it. Now, dyeing it is always a fun process that makes my hands very, very colorful, but worth it. It will momentarily color my countertops, but they are not going to be stained. They'll just need a good scrubbing. So we're going to divide this up. I think I'm going to do red, purple, and white. So just your happy Valentine's Day colors on here. You can go as many colors as you want. So I'm just going to knead everything together, and then we will add in our dough. And then I always thought about it. I was like, I could probably just take it out and then use the mixer and then add blue to the red to make the purple, but it's more fun to do it this way. Now, you can also just leave it completely plain. They makes no difference in the flavor, whether they are red or white. These aren't like, Skittles or Starburst where the color really does matter. Okay. Got these. So white will keep the same. We just keep right out there. And then we're going to do our colors here. You're going to use a lot more food coloring than you think you're going to use to dye these up. I find that liquid food coloring works better than the gel on there. And I find that the organic food coloring does not work well at all for it. We're going to add in, this is going to be red, so we're going to add in several dots for that one. This will be purple, so not quite as much. And then I'm going to do a light blue to go with that red because I don't want it to be too dark of a purple.
Is this a good dough to add flavors to or not?
You can definitely add flavors to it. For it, I've never added nuts or mix-ins that way, but I was going to say this would be really great for like an almond extract on there. It will hold up well. You might have to adjust adding a little bit more flour because any liquid that you add in is going to cause the dough to kind of get a little bit more soft. So depending on how much, but I would start by adding in a teaspoon. Right now, it's just the traditional butter flavor, which is wonderful on here. I'm going to just turn my soup down to low, and then we'll get this mixing on here. I'm doing red first because red is in purple. So when I typically mix these in, because I mix them in by hand, I do the lightest colors first, and I kind of work in like the color window. So like, yellow before green or yellow before orange, if I'm going to do something like that. And then if I do green, I'll do blue next, just to kind of keep those in there because you can try to wash your hands, but your hands are going to be dyed a little bit. There we go. And you can always put parchment paper down and do it. I just give my countertops a really good scrub. There's the red. We're going to close up, kind of like put it in there, and then we'll knead it. It's going to pop out. And then sometimes I have to add in some more colors, but we'll see. This one's going to be purple, so we have our red and blue mixed in there. It looks like I'm going to have to add in a little bit more red because that red and blue mixed together is making black, which We'll see once it gets kneaded in there. I've never had that happen. I wonder if they're interacting with each other. It's a very dark one. Don't worry. We'll just add a little bit more red. And And if you find that you have it going a little bit longer with the colors, it's getting too wet to work with, you can always sub in just a little bit extra flour. There we go. This is coming together better now. There. And it's not the prettiest purple, I'll tell you that. Let's see. I'm going to say, let's see what we can do. What rehabbing, we can make it less of a grayish purple. There we go. And let me grab, since I added a bit more, I'm gonna add just a teeny bit of flour. Helps with the kind of the stick. And when I say a teeny bit, you really just need about a teaspoon. There you go. The color's actually lightening out now that we're mixing it, so not so bad. But because I don't use the gel food colorings, which I'm not a fan of because they don't mix in as well. But there we go. This is turning out nice now. It just needed really good mixing. Here we go. And I will say colors bake up a little bit darker than they are. So this is it's going to break up about that red when you're done with it. Here. Okay. Looks pretty good now. So we've got our red, our purple things. I'm going to give my hands a quick rinse, and then we're going to shape them up into the logs. We'll add our meatballs in, and we can kind of serve up. I'm going to put our meatballs in, let them simmer in our broth. Okay. First, we'll try to dye my hand as much as possible. You could also do it with like gloves on. I just find it's easier to really get in my hands with it for it. Okay, let's get our meatballs in our soup. Then we will shape up our logs, and I'll show you kind of how I do that. So here is look how wonderful this lovely stew is. The nice gnocchi are nice and soft now. So we're going to add in our meatballs. And we'll just pop them in just like this. And we'll mix it around. That broth is going to add some great flavor on it. It's a nice thick one, so we'll kind of coat each little meatball up. But this is our ground chicken meatballs. I would say for this, you could also do like an Italian sausage, turkey. I would say even a pork. I don't know. I don't feel like ground beef would make the best flavor combo with this soup, but you could definitely try it. Look how wonderful that is. A nice, rich stew. I'm going to turn this, got it down nice and low. We'll let that simmer. And let's shape up our things. So you can either use press and seal or like saran wrap to wrap them up for this.
What kind of soup is that?
That is our chicken meatball and gnocchi soup. We have a rich kind of base broth, which doesn't have any cream in it, just a little bit of flour to thicken it up. And it's seasoned with fresh thyme, Italian herbs, has kale, and onions and celery in it. Here we go. Look at our beautiful colors. The purple now is much, much nicer. Just needed a little bit of love. So the way I like to do it, and you can do it in several different ways depending on how you want it, is I take a bit of the dough and I'll kind of stretch it out into the length of my saran wrap or my press and seal. Press and seal works really well because it creates a nice seal over it. So I do prefer that method, but you could do things. I'll do a little bit of this. This is going to be the ones where I'll give you like tricolored so they would look kind of like this, but with a third color. Then there's the way you can do it, which gives you a marbled look. So you have a lot of different options. And then we've got our white. And then we'll roll it up. And that's when you can kind of give it the perfect shape. So don't worry so much about it right now, whether it looks nice in here. It's kind of like a big mound. It's when we roll it up, that's where you're going to get the good shaping. And then we'll on here. So, and then what you do is you just freeze this. I find overnight or at least 6 or so hours works really well for it, but we'll roll it out now that you can see what it looks like shaped up. So on here, I'm going to pull off a little bit on each one so I have a little bit more twisting room. And then you freeze them and then you just slice them up into nice slices like this, and then you bake them for 8 minutes at 350 degrees. And it is the simplest, easiest cookie to have on hand, which is why I make big batches of these, because they just live in my freezer until we are ready to serve them up.
Do you have your recipes posted anywhere?
I do have this recipe card available for everybody. This is one of our freebie recipes that I gave a while back. They're on the link on our page on there, as well as this video will be posted, so you can always rewatch the video and just make them from the video. Here we go. So we've got on here. So these are our Aunt Aggie's cookies, and they are absolutely delicious. So they're like a mix between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie on there. So, but I was going to say, like, this video will be on there available. We'll post it afterwards up there. And the cookbook. Yes. Forgot all about that. We're making a cookbook. I'm making a cookbook. I'm getting all my recipe cards and everything together to make one up for it. This one is going to be kind of our rainbow marbled look for it. So you're just going to kind of take little chunks of it and just break it up on here. And then, just kind of spread it around like this. And then what we'll do is we'll actually like push it, we'll fold it together, and then we'll break it in half and roll it kind of out again. But just put them a little bit everywhere so you have more of a marbled pattern in it versus the other ones are 3 like pronged ones. You can also do each color on its own and do like the full little shapes for it. Okay, so we'll do a quick this, and then what I like to do to kind of get it, because as you can see it's already more thing, I break it in half and then I stack it right on top of each other. So now you have almost that double marbling on it. And it just makes it a little bit things, and then just squeeze it out to make it. You can make these as small or bigger as you want. They all cook up around relatively the same size. I like to make little small ones because then you can eat more of them and just feel like you're getting more of a treat on there. There we go. And then you just slide them up. And they're nice and sealed, and they go in the freezer, and you pop it up. Let's serve up our lunch and have some cookies. And I'll shape up the rest. My kids also love this cookie dough. It's like their favorite. It is very yummy and delicious. But here, oh, look how wonderful this is. Let me grab out a nice bowl and on there. And get a plate out so that we have our cookies as well. And let's grab a ladle. And then I do have some Parmesan cheese because these flavors really work well. So we'll grate a little bit of Parmesan cheese over the top because also you have gnocchi and pasta and Parmesan cheese are, like a happy couple here. Slide this right over real quick, just out of my way. And then we can serve up. Okay. For lunch today, let me turn this off real quick, sorry. For lunch today, we have our chicken meatball and gnocchi soup. We made a rich stew based using chicken broth, Italian seasoning, fresh thyme, carrots, celery, onions on there, but just nice and thick and delicious. really wintry and homey. And we're going to grate a little bit of fresh Parmesan cheese over the top of it because that Parmesan is just going to add great flavor and a little bit of texture to the top of our soup. And then, of course, we have our lovely little sweet treat on the end, our beautiful Aunt Aggie's cookies. And like I say, they are, let me grab, perfect. They're soft. I will say, even in the beginning, you see how they're soft and wonderful, but they've got that flavor of a butter cookie and a sugar cookie, not too sweet, but not too buttery, but just this happy medium all together. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to our page and search for what we made, our Aunt Aggie's cookies and our chicken meatball gnocchi soup. This is also a recipe card that I have available for everybody. So most of the time our recipe cards just go out to our members, but this is the one that I made for a freebie for everyone because it is such a hit. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our kind of cooking gear and gadgets in there. So I've got my really big baking sheets in there, my Dutch ovens, knives, cutting boards, so all the different things that I use in the kitchen.